Hello, my friends. Father Sean here again for another round of Virtues for the Kingdom. Today we're going to talk about justice. Justice is kind of one of those words where it's just like, oof, justice sounds kind of like one of those things where I'm really not sure I want to pick up and deal with. I think I'd rather prefer justice to be done out there. If that's the case, then that person will never become a just man, never will become a just woman. And that's kind of like the biblical stereotype of someone who's holy. They will call that person the just man. So let's really warm our hearts and say, like, all right, let's be just. I want to be just. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they shall be satisfied. So let's not just kind of casually step into this virtue of justice, but let's really hunger and thirst for it. Not just thirst for it out there in the world, but let's really desire that we become people of justice, people who give what is due, what is owed. So that's kind of what's the hinge here. Justice itself is the habitual disposition to give to someone what is due, what is owed. That speaks of the reality of the human person is someone who is owed something, is due something. If you're a human person who is listening to me, you are owed something. You are due something. The world owes you something. Your neighbors owe you something. And if you're interacting with other human people, you're going to owe them something as well. It's just kind of the nature of it. We don't choose this reality of being owed and being due something, and we don't choose it for other people. We don't get to choose if we owe them something or if something is due to them from our own possessions. It's just the nature of things, and that's a good thing. That's all right. In fact, it comes from the reality of who a human person is. Someone who is made in the image and likeness of God. And God is due something because he's God and we're not, so we owe him different things. But we share in that. When I see someone in the street, if nothing else, I owe them respect. I owe them friendliness because they are image bearers. They are walking around in the image and likeness of God, and I should be like, oh my gosh, there they go. Got to watch out for that. You can't just stare at people, but you got to say like, wow, that is someone I can't just ignore. You know, I really don't like how we stereotype certain parts of the United States or the world where you just walk by people and you just ignore them. I hate that. When I walk by people, I generally at least kind of look up and try to make a very minimal, at least, a form of eye contact. And if it's just us out there in the streets, I'll say hello. And that's what I do because I owe them respect. I owe them my attention. I owe them recognition that they are a human person made in the image and likeness of God. Without this, there will never be a true culture of encounter. There's not going to be a real culture. There's never going to be a real community. That's just how it is. So now there's different relationships of justice. There's different ways of owing people different things. The first way is the justice of exchange. You know, you give me $5, I'm going to give you a lamp, you know, whatever it is. If you give me 25 cents, I'm going to give you a piece of bubble gum. I don't know, whatever it is. If I give you $25, you're going to have to fix the light bulb at my house, something like that. It's an exchange of goods and services, by and large. There might be other ways of understanding this too. A job well done is owed recognition for that. Say, you've done well. I want to recognize you, maybe even publicly, if the job is done particularly well, because it's due to that person. Now, sometimes we can err from that. That's what we call theft, in a very obvious way. Don't steal. If someone is owed the truth, well, when we lie, we violate that also. It's the violation of the justice of exchange. Sometimes it's withholding from them what is due. But sometimes it's giving to someone something that is not due to them. Maybe if I stole something from someone else, I gave it to someone, even a different person, that'd be a whole different kind of injustice. It'd be worse. Another more common thing is, I got to respect you. I owe respect to you. That means I can't insult you because you are due respect. And I'm giving you something that is not due to you. You are owed something more. So we can't insult, we can't gossip, and we can't mock and those different things. The second relationship of justice is when the whole distributes to the individual. That's to say, the government gives to the individual, the family gives to the individual, the school gives to the individual, the church gives to the individual. And this is a real form of justice. This is how it is. We are able to organize and become something greater than just ourselves. And this is what we call the common good. It's not just kind of pieces and parts of everyone's good just kind of squished together. It becomes something greater, a greater form of good. And the government or the school or the parents or the pastor, they become custodians and chief stewards of that goodness. And the reason why that common good exists is so that all the members may benefit from that. So we unite together in order to have a greater good so that everyone can experience this good at a deeper level. But this means that, the government owes something to its citizens. Good roads, security, basic things like this, all the different services of the government. Parents owe different. Also, I want to say that the government owes the reminder to its citizens that they are people of duty, that they owe something. So the government is the grantor of duties. Think about the family. The parents, they owe something to the other members of the family. They owe them food. They owe them shelter. But they also owe them the opportunity to be participants in the family, to be people of chores. The kids got to do chores. If kids aren't doing chores, they're going to grow up and be bums. If the parents aren't holding them accountable, goodbye. There you got a spoiled brat who's going to grow up to be an adult spoiled brat. This is not, complicated stuff. If we treat them as babies unable to live with responsibility in accordance with their age, they're going to be growing up to be adults who are unable to fulfill their responsibilities that are in accord with their age as well. It's just how it goes. So anyways, just as an example, I don't want to get too far distracted there. Schools would have the duty to give the resources to parents to help their students with homework. They would have the duty to help the kids grow in all these different ways. It's just what happens. The principal would have the duty to equip the teachers with different tools in a changing world. Be like, oh, we need to watch out for this. Oh, you're going to need this. Okay, here's the little changes here. I want to respect you, and you need vacation time because you're getting burnt out. We're not going to allow that. We're going to support you in that. Just different things like that. The third form of justice is the very opposite. I want to also say that the world is pretty obsessed with this distributing justice, where the whole is the giver of these different things to the people. And when the world is obsessed with that, the whole world becomes kind of a spoiled brat. Like, well, what can I get? Think of JFK's quote, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." And this, what you can do for your country, is the real essential for a person to be just, as opposed to just being a mooch. That's how it is. But we need to be people who give back. This is the justice that gives back. And it's justice. It's not kindness. It's not charity. It's just what we have to do to be a just person, to be a good human being. A lot of people say, I'm a good person, but the reality is they don't give back. It's just like, you're not so good. You're not giving back to your kids. You're not giving back to your spouse. You're not giving back to the school. You're not giving back to the government. You hate paying taxes. You don't give anything to church. You don't give your time to church. It's just like, well, you're not a just person. Everyone can call you a good person, but you might not be a just person. This is the person who takes pride in paying their taxes, who looks forward to being able to be on jury duty. This is the person who says, Father, not just do I want to give money, I want to find a way that I can give of myself, my time, my talent, my treasure, all these different things. This is the parent who says, I'm going to be involved in my kids' education. I'm going to support the school. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to be willing to be a member of the Parent-Teacher Association, which is a big commitment. I'm going to be willing to be a volunteer coach, whatever it is. I'm going to be willing to volunteer to be a catechist at the church. I'm going to be a volunteer here. I'm going to give back. I'm going to give back. I'm going to give back. This is essential. It's not really an option if you want to be a really good person, or if you want to be someone who has justice close to their heart. It is essential. So now let's look at some more specific relationships. first, let's look at who we firstly owe everything to. Where have we got it all from? We got it all from God, and therefore we owe it all to God. We owe it all to him by justice. This is the virtue that we call religion, a sub-virtue of justice. We must love him because he commands it, but we must also render to him what is due to him. This is to say, our daily prayer. We must give him thanksgiving. We must give him praise. We must come to him when times are difficult. We must bring him our offering, our worship on Sundays. This is why there's the obligation to attend church on Sundays, so that we bring forward ourselves to him and renew our offering. It's kind of the Sunday altar call. It's what we got to do in order to maintain that faith, which he expects of us. Everything comes from him. And to think that we can kind of parcel out a part of it just for us, and be like, well, this is really not God's time. I'm just going to use it how I want to. This is really not God's money. I'm going to use it how I want. This is really not God's child. I'm going to raise him how I want. It's incorrect. We must owe all these things to God, because he is the bestower of all these wonderful, magnificent goods, and he himself must be so good. Let us just give ourselves back to him. And when we do that joyfully and cheerfully and willing to even go beyond what is given to us, which is kind of hard and impossible to do, but we call this charity, to really desire his good, not just to returning the good that we received, but to really pursue his good. That's called charity. And in a related way with this, kind of parts of this virtue of religion is that we respect, we don't worship, but we venerate those who have gone before us, our ancestors who lived very good and holy lives. Principally Mary. We give her super veneration, is what we call her. Not worship, but super veneration. And to the saints, we give them veneration. That is to say, we honor them just as we honor our parents. That's the next relationship I want to talk about. This is called filial piety. That's kind of the technical definition, but this is honoring thy father and mother. We must, because we've received everything from God, but a lot of times we receive things from God through the hands of our parents, and we need to respect them for that. We need to say thank you. We need to be kind. We need to apologize when we have erred. When the parents get older, we need to care for them in special ways. It might be with our time. It might be with our finances. It might be being there and, kind of hate to say it, but changing their diapers. This is what we owe to them through justice. It's not charity. It's just giving them what is due. When we desire their good beyond what is just a simple return for how much they have loved us, well, that's charity. But if it's just respecting them and honoring them because they are our parents, which is what we need to do, that's just what we call justice. It's the backbone for any future charity. I had a friend who his parent was very ill, and he moved away. He hunted down a new job so he could be close by and care for them. And that was a huge thing for him. That really inspired me. I'm like, that's what it means to honor thy father and mother. I think a piece of this is also doing one's best as a child to live where you were raised, assuming your parents are there, because that's just the nature of humanity, to be rooted. In a very similar way, we owe this form of respect and honor to our motherland or our fatherland, to our home country. And not in the same way as we do to our parents, but we should have a good sense of patriotism. Absolutely. I'm an American, and it's good to be from the United States, and I should love my country. I should respect it, and I should pursue its good. The next kind is what I've already mentioned. It's recognition that everyone was made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, I must give them smiles. I must speak to them kindly. I must be gracious. Just friendliness. The friendliness is a big thing. This helps build a culture of encounter, which is really essential for any kind of culture. If we're not interacting with people, there's not going to be any form of having a shared anything. We must have this interaction. We must have this fellowship with our brothers and sisters. And then fourthly, we should have this, like I mentioned earlier, or Jesus mentioned, we should have a hunger and thirst for righteousness, for justice. We should really be desiring to correct injustices, to repair wrongs. This is beautiful. This is kind of the avenger, the righter of wrongs. But we're not punishing people because it feels good, but we are restoring what has been lost unlawfully, unjustly. And it is a good thing that the government punishes criminals, because that's what is owed to them. They have put aside what they have been owed in the sense of that friendly encounter. Though if I was walking through a prison, I would still be very friendly with them. But I would also say it is just that you receive the consequences of your actions. I've received consequences of my actions in the past when I was a kid growing up. I still feel that in many ways today just because of the natural reality of things. But we need to really hone in on what is good and loving and merciful, and what is just, because that's a piece of it. Thanks for tuning in. Many blessings to you. Hopefully we all grow in justice, and may Almighty God bless y'all.